Hello and welcome to the North Coast Journal preview, where we take a look at the stories being covered in the current edition of the North Coast Journal. I'm your host, Dave Frank, and I'm joined this week by Iridian Casares, staff writer, and Colin Yo, contributing writer at the North Coast Journal. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Oh, no problem. Great to have you both back, and you're holding things down while Thad and Jen are out of range anyway. So this is great. It's good to see you both, and I'm glad we're having a chance to connect.
Nice to see you too, Dave.
Yeah, same here.
Why don't we just dive right in, Iridian, and why don't you tell us what is on the cover of this week's North Coast Journal?
Yeah, so this week, Thad and I worked on the cover story, which is all about the Sara Bareilles concert that happened this past weekend. And it was just a huge event with probably the biggest event that I've ever been to in Eureka. And it was her day to just support or give thanks to the city of Eureka, the place that she grew up. It was definitely a love letter to the city, and it was such a great experience. I was able to talk to her a little bit before the concert. They had us do a few interview questions with her, and so I had asked her about her work with Good Tidings, a foundation that's working with the Boys and Girls Club of the Redwoods to revamp the stage and build a recording studio for the Boys and Girls Club kids. And so she was able to just say, Humboldt County kids, need a place to voice, to make art and do what they're passionate about, just as she was able to when she grew up here, So that was really cool. I also asked her about her work with the Humboldt Literacy Project, and we just touched on that in the story. But other than that, yeah, the concert was pretty epic. So many people there. Everyone was having so much fun, if not more fun than Sara was. She was really, really getting into it and bantering with the whole audience. It was truly, truly awesome. Yeah.
Right on. Well, I didn't actually get a chance to attend, but I did read your article and I saw the photos that are out there. It seems pretty epic. Like you said, people think it's the largest in-person event in Eureka, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, totally. I think there was 15,000 people there, which was huge.
Yeah.
But everyone was having fun. Towards the end of the concert, I was in the back. And even as she was playing the last few of her songs, everyone was still jamming out and dancing and cheering for Sara Bareilles. So it was
really cool.
Yeah, very awesome.
So before we talk about some of the other items that you mentioned, which are some of the charitable contributions and work that she did. You mentioned, well, I guess it's sort of a parallel to that, is that she, in the article, it talks about how she wears her sort of her political views, or at least, her on her sleeve, basically. And it's in a lot of her lyrics, and it's in what she stands for. So, one of the things that I think you talked about in your article was that there was a lot of back and forth with people in the crowd. So it seems like, coming from Eureka really did inform and shape her personality in a big way. Do you have any observations about some of that feedback that, the back and forth she had with the crowd, or just that energy that she brought?
Yeah, no, it was just really awesome to see. And it was just so much fun to witness. And I think a little bit of, I don't know, I came out of this concert. So I've lived in Eureka. I've lived in Humboldt County for 8 years, in Eureka for maybe about 3 or 4. And I feel like coming out of that concert, I was yeah, I'm from Eureka too, now. So I'm feeling all into it. And so I can't imagine just being from here and growing up here, how those residents feel. It was really powerful and very impactful, for sure.
So part of the backstory on this was that this started from, I guess, some communications
Yeah.
between Susan Seaman and Sarah. You can tell us a little bit about that, or what, if you talked to Susan at all about this.
Thad talked to Susan about it, and this started off as an idea, in 2019 after she had won her Grammy for Saint Honesty, I think that's the song, to just come on a conference call and make an appearance at the Eureka City Council. And so that kind of like snowballed into this huge event. And so Sarah and the city of Eureka, Sarah's team and Live Nation, who put the concert together, really worked on setting up a stage and providing like the police department and security services and the Coast Guard to really make this happen. And she was very thankful about everyone's effort and contributions at the concert. Like she voiced it throughout. But yeah, it's pretty incredible to see how it just kind of became this monumentous moment,
Yeah. I think we buried the lead here a little bit, that this was actually a free concert.
Oh, yeah.
So Sarah just wanted to
free.
give back, right? Anything about, other than that, anything you learned about her, desire to pay for it herself?
Yeah, nothing but just the fact that she really loves being from Eureka. Like, she talks about Humboldt County all the time, is what she says. And like, she really, really wanted to give back to this community that shaped who she was. And so this was her way of doing that, which I think is pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, there's a little bit of how she, we had talked about this once before, Jen, I think, and Thad, when the show was announced, and how Sarah is outspoken and opinionated, but coming from a really positive place. And so one way that she's doing that was, you mentioned the literacy program. So she's helping with a library, I guess. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so she is helping the Humboldt Literacy Project with a collection of books. And one of the demands that she made, for donating these books, was that they include anti-racist and like LGBTQ plus materials so that everyone could have access to it. And so I asked her a little bit about that in my interview with her, and she just was like, this truth telling, it's just information that's already out there, and she's not about limiting what people can read. So yeah, I thought that was pretty awesome, and I can't wait to see that collection of books. But yeah, so she's just really outspoken and in a very positive way.
Yeah, I was going to say it's kind of sad that in 2022 we actually have to even be concerned about communities banning books. It should just be fiction. Should be something we see in movies, like or historic records of how somehow people are fearful of more information and more exposure to the diversity of the world we live in. But so thank you for asking her about it and making sure that we knew she was down. But also you mentioned that she is giving a supporting construction of a Boys and Girls Club studio. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What she may have said about her inspiration and what is it exactly that she's given? I'm not 100% clear.
So she, her inspiration was the theater community here in Humboldt County, and the theater community here in Humboldt County is like, I have never seen anything like it. I feel like there's just so many theater groups here, and they're all very supportive. And so she said that she went to watch a lot of plays at the Ferndale Rep and was really shaped by Eureka High School's theater program and the community. And so she's working to with Good Tidings, a foundation, to build to fix up the Boys and Girls Club stage so that they can have a stage to perform on and have jam sessions, and also to construct a recording studio so that kids can, make music and really, just do what they love, which is, exactly what she does, And she has a really good quote in here. I'm not going to try to find it, but it's in the story about that project.
Oh, I found one for you. I think it's
Okay,
the
yeah,
one you have
thank
in
you.
mind because it gave me
Yeah,
goosebumps when I read it.
yeah,
It said, "It's such a remote community here. I feel like sometimes we forget we also have access to our big imagination and
exactly.
what's possible." Is this the one? Yeah. And she said, "I don't think small town has to equal small mind, and I think this is just a great way to remind kids to dream big."
Yes, that's exactly it.
Actually, there's one more piece to this. You
Okay,
gave an
go.
extended quote. Yeah, there's so much beauty up here to use and to metabolize to make art. I just think people have a lot to say, and it's a way to give them a way to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that says it all, right? That's really pretty amazing.
Yeah, isn't it awesome? I don't know. I just think it's really, really cool.
Well, this is great. So any other observations you have about, kind of seeing people in the crowd or just the event itself, how it was received by others besides like Susan and yourself?
Yeah, no, I think everyone who was there was enjoying every single minute of it, even, and it's crazy too because I didn't realize that like Humboldt County could come out like they did, for this concert. Like I had gotten there maybe like close to 1 o'clock and the line was like already down to S Street. So the love that Humboldt County has for Sara Bareilles and vice versa is just equal. Um, yeah, it was an awesome day.
Good deal. Well, thankfully you got a chance to experience it, Iridion,
Yeah,
and it was great that you could share it with us. So thanks again for being here.
yeah, thanks, Dave.
How about you, Colin? What is going on the Arts and Features beat, and in particular, your contributions this week?
Well, this is a great time of year for live music in general and play productions and so forth because we have a full house regarding students at Cal Poly Humboldt. You have basically whatever the summer doldrums are kind of been whisked away. So like this is a pretty good week in those regards. I got a couple pieces this week. I reviewed a small one act two-person play over at the Exit Theater, which is this little nook upstairs on the northeast side of the plaza in Arcata. It's a great little venue. I can't even imagine what the capacity is, but it's not particularly large. I love small theater spaces, and they've done a good job with this particular one. It's a piece called Waking Sam Beckett, which is essentially a companion piece to Waiting for Godot. But unlike Waiting for Godot, which I reviewed last December, it's not full of like this sort of like thick, obstreperous language, behavior, occasionally violent action. It's way more relaxed. It felt sort of like someone had taken the characters from Waiting for Godot, the two primary ones, Dee Dee and Gogo, and just sort of like smoked them out beforehand and calmed them down. So they gave them a little introduction to the West Coast, which I found rather charming, actually. You can read the full review in the paper this week. I don't want to give too much away, but if you're a fan of live theater and you like the more small, intimate venues and you want to see a newer one around here, I would recommend checking out the production of Waking Sam Beckett.
So I meant to ask you. You said, because this sounds like it's really cool. You said that the theater's so small you couldn't guess how many people. So it's a two-person play upstairs off the Arcata Plaza at the Exit Theater. We're talking like maybe 30 or 40 people. Is that approximately, or not even?
Yeah, rough estimate. Bear in mind they did have a cocktail bar there, which I took advantage of. So I wasn't counting anything at the time.
Yeah.
I was more relaxed than anything else. But I would say, they had sort of like a relaxed sort of chair and table environment in there. One thing I liked about it was because it was on the plaza, you could hear things happening on the plaza, including like at one point in time, a fire truck going by, which one might think doesn't serve the action well, but in the case of this play, actually served the action very well because it is like an absurdist existential play. You're kind of set outside of time and place. So any sounds in the background are sort of complementary, if that makes sense, particularly if they're like sounds of life.
Yeah.
Which this play sort of, is full of life because it's the central question of Waiting for Godot. And I guess to a certain extent, this play is like, what is the purpose of life? Is there a purpose to life? Are we waiting around for nothing? Are we waiting around for something? I don't know. That's over my pay grade. I don't know the answer to those things.
Well, I'm not saying you have to have the answer, but just from an observer's perspective, I think you kick off your article by saying metafiction is hard. Can you just tell us, for folks who aren't really used to this type of experience, what that means to you. What is metafiction and what's hard about it?
Well, so metafiction, and to a certain degree, it's couched under like metatextualism or whatever. You're talking about a form of literary criticism where you are responding to a source material, and by responding to that source material, you are making your own deductions about what its purpose is. You're making your own opinions felt. You're maybe drawing the artistic line of sight into another aperture. Like the best example I have for that is like Tom Stoppard's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is where like two minor characters from Hamlet are basically observing the play of Hamlet from the side while having an entirely different experience the entire time for themselves. I mean, if you haven't checked it out, it's a great play. You know, I have a nice relationship with it. I happened to catch on to it when I was a young enough guy that it really made a big impression on me. So metafiction's tough in that regard. I think the people over at the Exit Theater really pulled it off with this, though, in a very like not too heady way, like in a way that's very approachable for everyone.
Awesome. That's good to hear, because it sounds a little highbrow, but the fact that it's approachable means you can just immerse yourself in it and just take what you can from it. You said people maybe should actually familiar themselves with Waiting for Godot, because there's you didn't call it Easter eggs, but it's like basically littered with Easter eggs. Is that the idea?
Yeah, in the same sense that like the Rocky Horror Picture Show has all the things that you're supposed to know about, you know, which I've since forgotten because I'm not 16 anymore. But like, and I do want to point out, like, Waiting for Godot itself is a very loud and at times almost like violent and vulgar play. So it does help to, you know, sort of immerse yourself in that background and kind of just also understand what these two are doing and why you have two characters talking to each other the way they are. And in this case, they're debating what to do after the death of the playwright, Samuel Beckett, who was himself kind of an enigmatic character, being like an Irishman who lived in France. So you have two different traditions that are coming together in the middle 20th century, which is like, what a more like wild and at times like pessimistically existential time to be alive, you know?
Yeah. So very rich experience, avant-garde art right here in Arcata. Easy for me to say. So thanks.
I would say not too avant-garde, because there is an off stage peeing scene. So like, it's not too. There's a urination scene. So don't think it's going to be too highbrow here,
okay.
Right? It fits perfectly for my general vulgar tastes.
Right on. Well, any other comments on local theater, or do you want to go to your other article?
I'll move on to the other article.
Okay, cool.
This is a really packed week. I've had a lot of weeks lately where it's like we got a couple dead zones in there. You know, it's like we don't have a lot going on. Mondays and Tuesdays in particular are bad. But this week it's like Monday, for instance, you have one of the larger, more influential indie bands from like the last 10 years, Always, which is stylized with two V's instead of the W. They're playing at the Arcata Theater Lounge. Like that one might sell out, right? Nice. You've got a really cool thing with local jazz musicians on Saturday, which is Nick Talvola, who's a very talented trumpeter, and he's put together a sextet, and they're going to play sort of like a cabaret jazz sort of format with tables and all that sort of thing, with a backdrop of vintage sci-fi monster films playing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to that one. That one sounds like fun. Yeah. So there's that. I mean, just even on an off night like Wednesday, like I mentioned before, well, we've got, first of all, Thursday, we've got, what was that guy's name? There's a rapper from, I'm pulling out the old Fish rapper here. The rapper from Berkeley named Rex Life Raj, which I started listening to him because of writing about him. And I was really blown away by his ability to sort of like mix soulful kind of singing vocals with his sort of mid-tempo delivery. He's really good at what he does. And he's playing the ATL. The following Wednesday, at the end of that whole week cycle, there's a band from Tennessee called Bill and the Bells. That's just sort of like a classic string band, which is really like the old acetate vinyl days of like jazz mixed with like bluegrass and sort of street Tin Pan Alley type music. I mean, there's just a lot of cool stuff going on this week. I'm more excited about this week than I have been about some recently, put it that way.
Yeah, this is like a lot of going on here, a lot of diversity and but all over too. So you named a couple places in Arcata. That last one that you said, the where are they playing? Bill and the Bells?
I'm sorry. That's over at the Miniplex. That's also in Arcata. Now
Okay.
this is rather an Arcata-centric week.
Yeah.
And forgive me, I do live in Arcata, and I try not to let that sort of like poison my thinking, you know? I
Yeah.
like to write about Eureka more. I like to write about Blue Lake. There's some cool shows coming up at the Lager Bar soon. You know, it's like, it is sort of a spread out county though. So you have to sort of see where the action is. And because we're the college town, oftentimes it does tend to land in Arcata.
I mean, straight up, you got to report where people are playing, and so much of it seems to be Arcata.
Big time, yeah.
One thing that stood out that I didn't know about that I'm hoping you could tell us about, PSYOP victim. That seems pretty crazy, and you didn't mention it, so I'm just curious, what's up with them?
That's my friend Darren's band. He's a guitar player, and it was funny. He's probably not going to want me to say this, but it was a last-minute gig that he got thrown onto, and we were literally drinking at the Alibi together when he got the message. He was like, "Oh, geez, I got to go play in a few hours," and I was like, "Well, you going to drink more or sober up?" He's like, "No comment." Point being, he did an amazing job. I love seeing shows at Rampart, another Arcata venue, but it's like a skate park on the very edge of Arcata. And like out by the marsh, they put on some incredible shows out there. I saw Napalm Death there, and that was just phenomenal. It's really cool because you have all ages, and then you have kids like using the skate ramps like while people are playing metal. It's like something from like the first Ninja Turtles movie. It's like where the Foot Clan hangs out with, you know, in the first Ninja Turtles movie. It's like the bad boy's dream or something. You know what I mean? It's like So anytime I see a good metal show there, I'm like, all right, that's another pin for the lapel. That feels good. Yeah.
Nice. All kinds of cool stuff happening. This is really great. I like your beat, man. You get to just check it all out, and it's this diverse range of things. Do you end up checking out most of these shows too, that just to get some vibe from them?
Most, no, many though.
Yeah.
And I try to go to ones that take me a little bit outside of my normal wheelhouse. You know, I try to see things that I haven't seen before. I will say this, every band that I write about, I do make a point to listen to if I can find their music, which means that my Spotify is a nightmare. I cannot have any kind of mixtape or anything on Spotify. It just brings up like the most disparate nonsense. It's impossible.
No theme.
No. But I am definitely a gadfly, and I do like to be about town. So yeah, I try to get to as many as I can, particularly if I don't have to drive. That's always a good one.
So there is one more thing I would like to ask you about. I know we're getting close to the end of our time here today, but you mentioned the Eureka Symphony, and you got a chance to see them. That's in Eureka, is that right?
Yeah, Arkley Theater. Opening night, Carol Jacobson, who I was in her remedial music class in high school. I swear I've become a better person since then for the most part, but she's always been this phenomenal force in local music. And she has this incredible ability to bring soloists from around the world who are just like world-class musicians, like people that you wouldn't think would be playing in Eureka. And it complements the symphony, which is similarly unusually good. Like I try to tell people this, if you get a chance, go to the Eureka Symphony. They have just an incredible sound, really disciplined. She is such a wonderful conductor. Their programming is really good. You'll hear music that you perhaps had never even heard of before, mixed to things like, for instance, Beethoven's Eroica, which is his the first symphony of his where he really kind of found his voice as like a post-classical romantic writer. And the setting's wonderful. And listen, you can get nosebleed seats for like $19. It's like, you're totally missing out if you're not going. It's phenomenal. Please enjoy.
Thanks for the pitch. I have to say, when I was there the first time, one of the first times, I guess, after the renovation, I saw Host the Planets, and they played Jupiter.
Yeah.
And it was pretty sick. Like it was a small group of folks, and they were shaking the building with the sound they put out, and it was just as good as just about any time I'd ever heard it in my life. So yeah, thanks for putting that pitch in there too. This range of music you highlighted is pretty incredible. So we look forward to talking to you again in the future and hearing about your exploits. Until next time, that's great.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you got it. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have this week. North Coast Journal is available on newsstands now. Pick one up, stay informed. Also available 24/7 online, so you can check them out anytime. Iridion and Colin, thank you again. Really appreciate you guys being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And thanks for listening. Yeah, take care, everyone out there. Take care till we connect again next week. Bye, guys.